We have a big one to start Final Four weekend. The Connecticut Huskies going up against the Illinois Illini. 6:09 tip. UConn is currently a 1.5 point underdog. The line opened Illinois -2.5. It shifted down a point. The total set at 139.5 for this game. Grant, before we even talk about the matchup, let's talk about Dan Hurley. I got to get your reaction on him sticking his face in the ref's face. We had not talked about that on the podcast. I know we're a little late, but mixed emotions here. He said he knew the ref. It still looked like it should have been a technical to me. It just a fun video overall, but that's why Dan Hurley is the best, because of the videos like that.
Yeah, definitely. You guys watching this, make sure you leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And while you're down there, why not hit the like button? That's the #1 way that you can support us here on the channel. It just shows us you're appreciating the content. My thoughts on it were, by the letter of the law, that's a technical foul. And Hurley should have lost his team the game. Now, you never know, because the first video we ever posted on this channel was college kids can't shoot free throws. So maybe Duke goes to the line and they miss their free throws and UConn moves on anyway. By the letter of the law, it should have been technical foul. I did see someone come out. I don't know if they were a team personnel person or like they worked in the arena or they worked for the NCAA, but I saw somebody the morning after the game basically come out and say, hey, this video is going viral. This ref is known for being a jokester and he's got a relationship with Hurley, and like Hurley and Hurley been laughing at a timeout beforehand and stuff like that. So you can normalize it, and you can't. Hurley knew what he was doing, and he said that like I knew the guy. I had my arm around him just a couple of minutes beforehand. So I get all of that, but it wasn't. If you were going to officiate the game as the way it was written, then should have been a technical foul. With that said, I'm very glad they did not call one. I don't. It would have ruined the moment. Wasn't the right thing to do. And when you add in the layer of them having a relationship, we're cool. What should have happened, and we can move on.
I mean, first off, you can't make the call in that spot. Like if they are buddies and he's just sticking his face, like, 'cause he didn't say anything. Like Hurley said that the ref came over. He's like, you're going to have 0.3 or 0.4 on the clock. Like there was no words mentioned from Hurley. He just like stared him down like a madman. But also, when you look at the magnitude of the shot and the emotions Hurley was feeling, like I understand it. The ref also, you really can't make that shot in that moment. And credit to most Duke fans, I would say. I mean, I don't live on Duke basketball Twitter, but there hasn't been a lot of people complaining about players running on the floor or that moment. Like they just straight up got beat. Like they're like, how did the implosion happen for the Duke Blue Devils? That's more what they're worried about rather than that and getting the technical foul. And I think technicals in college, one shot, I believe.
Yeah, so, and to your point, I mean, yes, credit to the Duke fans for that, but also the story is blowing a 19-point lead. And even in that moment, you still have the game won. Yes, UConn has made a 17-point rally, but you still have the game in your hands because you literally have the ball in your hands. And Caden Boozer, I almost said Caden Proctor. Caden Boozer, to his credit, said, look, I lost my team the game. I lost my team the season. That's on me. Everybody's doing their part. Everybody's being responsible where they should. That includes the referee not making that call. Like, genuinely, I just think all parties involved handled this situation appropriately.
Now, Grant, when you get into a situation like we are dealing with here, you're either going to get the team that played their Super Bowl, and that was the Super Bowl for UConn, or they're going to carry that momentum to the national championship game. I don't think there's really an in-between here. UConn's a very good basketball team. I know they've slipped up at times, but you look at their out-of-conference schedule, it's one of the most impressive out-of-conference runs in America, and it includes a double-digit win over Illinois already this season. So do you believe UConn's going to come into this game and lay an egg, or are they going to come in and assert themselves as you would think a Dan Hurley team would?
If you had just told me that this was Team A, if I didn't know it was UConn, I would have, to be fair, I guess I couldn't have given you a definitive answer, but I probably would have leaned more on the side of that was the moment. It's now over. You've got a break in between games. If that happened on a Thursday and they had a Saturday game, if that happened on a Saturday and they had a Monday game, then okay, maybe they could have snowballed it over. But no, the emotion of it, it's going to wear down. You're going to regress to playing what your average baseline was. That's what I would say if I didn't know this team was UConn, because I firmly believe whoever you think the second best coach is in college basketball, I think Dan Hurley is running laps around them. Now, do I think UConn has the best team? No, I do not. But they have the best coach, and that matters in these best of one style formats. If it's a playoff game, if it's a March Madness game, if it's a soccer tournament, like if it's a best of one to get into the MLB playoffs, like anytime you're in that situation where you can leverage your coaching advantage, that makes a huge difference. So I know Hurley is going to have his team playing the way that he wants. They're going to run good offensive sets. They're going to be disciplined on defense and all of that. But I'm also sure that he is getting onto them saying, look at what you just did. You beat the national championship favorites, losing by 19 at halftime. We can do this, and here's what we're going to do, and here's what we learned in this game. And we're going to take these things, and we're going to move forward against Illinois, and I've got this scouting report, and here's how we're going to apply it. So I do have confidence that UConn's going to come out and play well. They might lose. We're going to get to our picks and everything. UConn could very easily lose this game, but are they going to lay an egg? I think there's a 0% chance that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be ready to go because that's what you would expect from a Dan Hurley coach team. And I think looking at the best player on the floor in this game, it's not Keaton Wagler. It's Tarris Reed by far. By far the most dominant player who can enforce in this scenario. I'm not saying like NBA draft outlook. I'm saying the player who can change the game is for one team more than any other player is definitely Tarris Reed. And when we look at the Duke matchup for UConn matched up very poorly against Duke. You had Tarris Reed going up against Cam Boozer at times. You had Alex Caravan guarding Cam Boozer. That was an extreme mismatch. I don't think you have the mismatches as much in this game. And that's why UConn was able to win by double digits early in the season. So I think this is a much better matchup for UConn. And they have the coaching advantage, which also makes the difference.
I do agree with what you're saying there. I want to stick up for Keaton Wagler because Tarris Reed has been phenomenal in this tournament. Like, I mean, for the tournament, the guy is averaging 22 and 14. He starts off with 31 and 27, which is nuts. And then it's 10 and 13, which is still a good game. It's just not amazing. Then it's 20 and 5, and then it's 26 and 9. And also, he had 3 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals, was guarding Cam Boozer. He was unbelievably good against Duke. So he could be the best player on the floor, but I also don't want us to forget about Keaton Wagler because he did score 25 points in Illinois' last game. Yes, he had a bit of a slow start shooting the ball early in the tournament, but he is shooting 44% from 3 in March Madness, and he's demonstrated that he has these explosive nights. He had 46 points against Purdue when they're ranked 4th in the country. He had 34 points in an overtime game against Wisconsin, right? So he can be that guy who takes his game to a next level, and he seemed to be getting a little bit more comfortable as the tournament has progressed as well. Again, most recently demonstrated by that Iowa matchup. So I'm not to disrespect Tarris Reed because the dude has been awesome. He might win tournament MVP if the tournament ended today, but Keaton Wagler's still that dude.
Oh, yeah, he's very good. Don't get me wrong. But is he the guy? I don't think he's the guy in this case. I don't trust the freshmen in these games. I really don't. I look at Caden Boozer making a mistake. UConn's the poise, the experience, the been there element of it. Like, I will take Alex Caravan over anything Keaton Wagler can do in this game because Alex Caravan has the experience of being in the moment. And that's a big deal. Like, you listen to these guys getting interviewed after the game for Illinois and they're like, we're so excited to get there. And like, this is my dream. And, it's a lot of young players and they got the Euro League players too, who have, played in the big leagues over there and then coming here. So maybe it's a little different, but when you're in front of a stadium of 80,000 people and you're trying to shoot a basketball, it's going to be different. And I think the team that handles that best has a great chance of winning this basketball game. I do think that will be UConn. And I guess I'm the pro UConn guy here. And I know you're a big UConn guy too, but when it comes down to it, UConn has not played anywhere close to their best basketball in this tournament. Like it's been Tarris Reed saving them and a few guys making shots at times. Like if they put their 3-point shooting together, like they did in the first half against Michigan State, they're really going to be tough to stop.
They are, but to be fair, them playing at their best, they still don't have a better roster than Illinois does. Now, can they play like a better team? They can, but that does kind of requires them being, I'm not going to say firing on all cylinders because they weren't firing on all cylinders against Duke. Even in the comeback, they weren't. They were still turning the ball over. And we talked about this after that game happened immediately. But the reason that comeback was really impressive to me was it wasn't just a constant, we are clawing our way back into this. It was 19, then they cut it to 13. And then they went back down by 16. And then they were down 10. And then they were back down by 14. And normally when you get that back and forth, teams just, they don't have it. They give up. Their spirit breaks, or they're just not good enough to make the comeback. But UConn had that never say die mentality. And you brought up Alex Caravan's name. For him to have been like 0 of 6 or 0 of 7, whatever he was from 3, and then with 1 minute left in the game, they drop the play for him and he knocks down that 3 to bring them back. So it's a 1-point game. Like things like that. That's why I'm confident in the resilience that UConn has, and why I do think they'll come into this game and play very well, or at least I think they'll play close to their best, if not their best.
Yeah, and you saying that they don't have the best roster in this game, it's very close, though. It's a point difference, 1.5 difference, right? And I think UConn's upside is a little higher in this game. But it's going to be a tough game for UConn. And it's also tough to, weather the storm of what happened against Duke, like riding that momentum into this game. Like you might get smacked, who knows? I don't think that's going to be the case. If it was any other coach, I'd maybe be a little more concerned. But Dan Hurley is going to have his team ready to go. And if I was Illinois, I mean, obviously, I think UConn is the best matchup of the 3. Like if you had to pick one team to play in the Final Four to get to the national championship, but that requires you going against Dan Hurley. And that's got to be scary for a team like Illinois.
Well, let's talk about Illinois' good sides now, because I feel like we haven't talked down on them, but we've talked about the goods of UConn. Let's talk about the good of Illinois. So what you can say about them this season, and this is actually ironically also a testament to UConn, but look at their losses, right? Forget about their wins. I mean, obviously they beat Houston by 10 points when they were underdogs in that game. They beat by VCU by 20. They beat Penn by 35. Then they take down Iowa by double digits, easily cover the spread. Like, we know what the wins are, but let's look at the losses. It's 4 points against Alabama. It's 3 against Nebraska, 3 against Michigan State, 2 against Wisconsin, 3 against Wisconsin, 1 against UCLA. Like, they rarely lose, and when they do, it is a super close game. Now, again, feather in the cap of UConn, because they have 2 double-digit losses this season. One is Michigan, who right now you look at as maybe the national championship favorites. The other is UConn. So, again, that is credit to UConn, but it reflects the consistency that Illinois has, and that's what you should expect from them. According to Ken Palm, they are the #1 offensive team in the country. They're very efficient no matter whether they're shooting from the field. They're at 46%. 35% from 3 isn't great, but they can knock down their shots. And then this one is big to me because I always talk about this. Free throw percentage matters in March Madness because you got to make your shots at the end of the game. They make 79% of their free throws. And that does have some of that European professional pedigree and also just the talent that they have on their team, right? Those things all combine, and that gives you an Illinois team that is favored going into this basketball team. Let's not forget that. The sportsbooks are expecting them to win.
Yeah, but, it's a point. That's all I'll say. It's a point. It's not crazy. It's a point. And I would put Illinois as the favorite. It's hard to be a team twice. And they got some great players, obviously, outside of Wagler. They got Stojakovic, who, comes off the bench for them and it's been really good. And again, another guy who is just, lighting it up right now and playing really good basketball. You got Merkovich, the big forward. He'll probably be matched up against Tarris Reed in this game. He's a freshman, but he's 20 years old. So like that, you're getting that situation too. And the one area where I think I'd be most scared if I am a UConn bettor in this game, it's like, if Illinois gets fouled, they're not going to miss their free throws. Like UConn I feel like the free throws have been up and down a lot in the tournament. Sometimes they're making a lot of them, other times they're not. Like Tarris Reed had some clutch free throws, but he's not going to be the big free throw guy all the time. They've had multiple times where they've come up empty on free throw possessions. You just can't do that in these kind of games. So that would be, where I get a little concerned. I think, if I'm looking at one guy, Kylan Boswell's probably got to be the dude as the senior to do a lot of the scoring in this game. Last time out against UConn, let's see what he did. Because Wagler was terrible last time out against UConn. So that's one thing.
He had 25 and 9.
He had 25 and 9. So that's what he's got to do. And then you probably got to get Keaton to support you a little bit there more, which he should. I mean, that was November, and now we're into real basketball now.
The interesting part about that game earlier in the year, and it was a long time ago, but we've talked about Tarris Reed more than anybody probably up to this point, and he had 2 points and 5 rebounds in that game. He was in foul trouble, 4 personal fouls. So number one, you got to keep him out of foul trouble, not just because Illinois does make their free throws, but because you need him on the court. But number two, there's a big difference from what I say he's averaging in the tournament, 22 and 14, 22 and 14 versus 2 and 5. That's all the difference in the world. So which one of those wins out? Because his individual performance could go a long way to determining the final score of this game.
Well, even like Arizona, Tarris Reed didn't even play in that game, and they still only lost by 4 points, and they were leading down the stretch. So, you just don't know what you're going to get. And that's college basketball. That's why it's so great. But I would expect Tarris Reed to be better. I expect Keaton Wagler to be better. I expect a lot to change from that game. When I look at it, though, Dan Hurley just feels like Patrick Mahomes, and you just don't go against him. That's kind of what comparison. Yeah, I mean, like, how many times has Patrick Mahomes been doubted in his career as a 1 or 2 point underdog, and he always seems to overcome? And I'm not saying Dan Hurley's going to do it, and this is definitely college basketball is a lot more volatile than the NFL, because in the end of the day, like, it comes down to 18-year-olds making shots or 20-year-olds, whatever you want to say. But he feels like Patrick Mahomes, so I'm a little scared of that.
I'm gonna throw some numbers at you here. So Illinois, we know, played Iowa in their Elite Eight matchup, and you know what? I want to give respect to Iowa because it was 32-28 at halftime. They were winning. They were a 9 seed, and it looked like they had a real shot to go to the Final Four. Obviously, Illinois gets massive credit because they win the second half by 16. They win 43-27. Just slammed the door on them. They had more talent. They played better. Wagler, again, was really good in that game. But Iowa was competitive, and I don't want to take that away from them. And kind of like Dan Hurley, I really like their coach, Ben McCollum, and I think he can make a big difference in a game. And you did see that at different points of the game. So looking at KenPom here, Iowa was 361st in adjusted tempo. Out of how many teams were there that were ranked? There was a total of 365. So 361 out of 365. UConn is 320th in tempo. So really not that different. Now, Illinois also only 296. So it's not like we're getting this glaring clash where you have Alabama going against the UConn. That's not what it is. But when Illinois ran into another team that was able to really slow down the offense, get to the looks that they wanted to, and when you play slow offense, you are normally able to set up your defense and limit your transition opportunities for your opponent. That's when you saw them actually start to struggle a little bit. And again, they dominated the second half, so they won out in the end. But UConn is a better team than Iowa is, with all due respect to what Iowa did. So if you're in a spot where it is UConn that's up 4 points at halftime instead of down 19 like they were against Duke, are they able to hold on to that lead? I have a lot more confidence in them because of Dan Hurley and because of just the experience of this team and how efficient they can be with their offensive sets as well. So a big part for me in this game is I think Illinois needs to get a hot start, and I think they actually need to be a little more risky, and I think they need to take some chances and try to get to some fast offense. There's a total clash going on in the NBA right now. The Celtics and the Hornets, who are on a great run, they play at some of the slowest paces in the league, and they've got some of the most efficient offenses in the league. And it's for the same reason that I just laid out here. You look at the Indiana Pacers, who went to the NBA Finals last year. Their whole philosophy was we need to get this ball across half court from the time we inbound it or the time that we grab the rebound. We need to be across half court within 3 seconds. Because we want to keep the defense on their heels, and we want just time to set up as many actions as we possibly can. If we go to one look and it's not there, then we flow into the next one. So I think Illinois needs to be on that side of things. They need to take their chances, whereas UConn is just going to say, hey, slow it down, and we trust what we've built. So I think it's going to be there's pressure on Illinois to make some stylistic changes, I think.
So let's get into the picks for the game, Grant. I will say that all the pressure is on Illinois in this game. I don't think there's any real pressure on UConn. I think they're ready for the moment. I'm not saying Illinois isn't, but what happens? Let me throw a stereo at you. What's more likely, Illinois winning the game or UConn comes out and is UConn? I think it's going to be UConn being UConn in this game. So I will take Dan Hurley and the Huskies comfortably. I do think they pull away in the end, and I think they win by close to 10 points.
I'm going to take UConn as well. I do not think it will be comfortable. I think this is one of those games where I'm not sure either team will ever be up more than like 7 points. I think it's just going to be this, it's going to be a tug of war, and the rope is going to be taut, and you're going to be pulling back and forth, looking for whoever has the separation. If the game is 38 minutes, maybe Illinois wins. If the game is 42 minutes, maybe Illinois wins. But I think when it's all said and done, I do have UConn really close one. I'm going to go with a score in the region of, I'm going to go something like 68 to 65, 66 maybe. I think it's going to be really close. A little bit of a lower scoring game. Defense wins out, and I give that advantage slightly to UConn.
All right, Grant, we're going with the Huskies. Big win for Dan Hurley's program, guys. Before we get into the next game, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Again, we're giving picks for every single game here. Like, share, and drop your picks for UConn, Illinois, and, of course, your picks for the game coming up that we're about to talk about, and that is Michigan and Arizona.